Hey Jesse, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
I'm excellent. Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, this will be fun. We've heard all about you over the last few years, and finally get to chat with you and meet you in person.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. Thank you for having me on the show and giving me a chance to speak my voice.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I was in Calgary. I was living in Darren. Where was I living? Now I'm losing my mind. I'm forgetting it. Michigan.
I
In
don't even
Michigan. I was in
in
Michigan
mission.
during COVID, and I
Yeah,
moved out of Calgary on the 14th of March. Like literally,
just
I was
before.
like right because I knew I was moving and I was rushing around, going, okay, like I just got to get out of here. And then I went to Chestermere, which was okay for a few years, but then I just had enough of that. So now I'm in Saskatchewan. I moved out farther. So, I was we were around Calgary, and Darren was in Chestermere the whole time. So we were around Calgary, through most of that, all the bullshit. So
Through the
yeah,
madness.
through the madness. Yeah. So what's going on? Where do you want to start, Darren? You want to start with a bit of a history of the story, maybe, or just for people?
Yeah, we might as well start at the beginning. I mean, I think most of our audience we don't have a lot of Canadians. We really don't. We're like 80% US based. So we probably mentioned you a few times in passing, but most of our audience probably doesn't know who Jesse Johnson is. Of course, you stayed open and defied the COVID measures. It was funny because we were all scrambling around looking for places where the unvaccinated could go get a piece of pizza, a cup of coffee, and all those avenues were shutting down quick. And of course, you walked the walk and ended up losing your business because of it. So maybe if you could just sort of take us through how it started, when it started, and yeah, start with that.
Yeah, you bet. So my name is Jesse Johnson. I owned a restaurant called Without Papers Pizza. I was in business for near 20 years in an inner city neighborhood of Calgary called Inglewood. We were a much loved institution in the city and very well respected amongst our peers and so on. And then all of a sudden, the apocalypse came, and the restaurant industry got turned on its head. My restaurant was really it was a special place. I'm sure a lot of restaurateurs come on there and talk about how great their place was, but my place was really different. And I had learned a long time ago that most people don't really remember the food in a restaurant. You remember the experience, the chi, the vibration. And that's really what Without Papers, or most people refer to it as WAP, was all about. It was all about an energy and a feeling, and much more than, how was your dinner, sir? It was a lingering experience that left in your mind after you left. Music, entertainment was a big part of the experience, and it really truly was a special place. I had 60 seats. On a Friday night, I would sell 500 pizzas. We would serve 300 people. We were lined up 7 days a week. It really was a cool place. And then the apocalypse came, and I watched what took me 20 years to perfect get systematically destroyed day after day. The health authorities in the city likened going to a restaurant akin to visiting a leper colony, and it broke my heart more and more and more every day. I have to say that the the lockdowns and so on were probably the most depressing moment of my life. You just watch what you loved so much just get destroyed, and it broke my heart. But we complied with everything, and we shut down, we opened, we shut down, we opened, we shut down, we opened. We socially distanced, we wore the masks, we did all of it. Even though I was opposed to all of it, I did it, and I did it because all of those things, we all suffered equally under the oppression, I like to say. And then finally, when the vaccine passport was announced, I made a choice, and I just like, what, there's no way I'm going to stand at the front door of my restaurant and turn a healthy customer away simply because he's the same as me. I'm not going to do it. I thought that it was an egregious breach of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, of the Bill of Rights, and I just thought it was against plain goddamn decency, to be honest with you. And so on September 20th, they announced the vaccine passport. I made a statement on September 20th that said, we accept all, may they be vaccinated or unvaccinated, as being equal in their humanity and afforded the same dignity and equity as such. an expression of love that was met with the most vile hate I've ever seen in my entire life. So we came out on the 20th, said we wouldn't do it. Right away, it caused the social media backlash. And on October 9th, which was Thanksgiving weekend, they came in just shortly after we closed. The sheriff, Alberta Health Services, the police, my landlord, and they gave us 2 hours to evict the premises. And I lost my business of 20 years because I accept it all.
Wow. So how long after the this September 20th, when you wrote the thing and all that, how long after that did they come?
It was on October 9th, and those 2.5 or 3 weeks were the most surreal, intense experience of my life. I was literally sleeping in the restaurant at that point. I had some friends on the police force who had informed me that if I was leaving, that I was going to be arrested, and so I chose to stay there. On October 1st. They rescinded our licenses and permits, our liquor license, our food handling permit, our business license, all of that. And then I closed the doors and I was giving away pizza for free on the street. We would literally just open the doors, drop pizzas on some picnic tables that were set up out front of our restaurant, and people would come and grab them and then leave a donation if they liked. We did that for about a week. One day the police came and they confiscated our picnic tables, and to counteract that, I brought out some milk crates the next day, and we were putting our pizzas out on milk crates, and the police came that day and confiscated our milk crates as well. Until finally they came and shut us down. It was a Saturday. I'll never forget it. There was freedom rallies that were taking place in Calgary every Saturday at Central Memorial Park, and they were starting to really gain in traction. And what went from just a few dozen people was starting to become thousands of people gathering in this park. And when I made my stance, obviously that little fire within the freedom movement, and I was led to believe that after that rally, that everybody was going to be coming to Inglewood outside of my restaurant to show support. And there was already, little rallies that were taking place outside just organically. But I sat at the window. My restaurant was on a second story of a 100-year-old building. I sat in the window and smoking, just looking out the window, wondering, when all these people are coming, And finally it was about 6:30 and my heart started to sink, and I realized that nobody was coming. And then all of a sudden the gravity of the situation took over me. And I realized at that time that I was going to lose it all.
Wow.
And it broke me. It broke me inside. I asked a friend of mine to, I had to get out for a bit. I'd been in the restaurant for a week, and I was just like, just take me for a ride, Whitey, please just drive me around. And I didn't realize that we were under surveillance. And so I was holed up in the restaurant with Sid Frazard from Rebel News, and plus a few other journalists that would come by from time to time. But we were anticipating the end. So when I left, Sid Frazard left maybe about an hour later. And, it was Thanksgiving Saturday, right? And I wasn't processing that. And a lot of people just wanted to go home to their families. And the same with all the people that were at that rally, they want to go and have dinner and all that sort of stuff. And so I left. Shortly after I left, Sid left. And once the two of us were gone, the authorities knew that the time was now. And they swooped in and shut down my restaurant.
Wow. So was it busy when you kept it open? Like, did you? Because the crazy part was, and people are in the chats were like, they remembered the vitriol, from you doing this, and I kind of almost forgot that side of it, like how people that would stand up got so much hate as well from all the sort of the brainwashed masses that were like, oh, you're going to kill grandma and all that. So was that still going on like through the whole time? Like were people also avoiding your restaurant, and people like, unjabbed?
I instantaneously, so when I say I was lined up we were the busiest restaurant in Calgary, but per square foot, I guarantee it. And so when we spoke out, we pretty much instantaneously lost 99% of our clientele. But then a different clientele showed up all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we were busy, but it was almost like it was full, but we were kind of less busy. And because what happened was, there would be people that weren't allowed to go anywhere. And so, you would come and then you would hang out for 3-4 hours. Right. So even though it was busy, it wasn't as busy as we were used to be. But yeah, it was quite strange and heartbreaking, actually, to see and hear people that you've known for decades, friends, dear friends, colleagues, customers, literally all of them turn on you in a heartbeat because, the TV told them that, I was killing grandma. It was insanity, and you think back to that past, I just, the whole thing was just so convoluted and ridiculous. It was, you weren't allowed to, so you were allowed to come in unvaccinated. You just weren't allowed to sit down. I was allowed to serve you unvaccinated. I just wasn't allowed to sit down with you. It was insanity. It was absolute insanity. It made no sense whatsoever. And I know that most of my brothers and sisters in the restaurant industry didn't want to have anything to do with it. Every restaurant in Canada was essentially held hostage by the government. They took away our customers, forced us demand loans, and those demand loans essentially bought the compliance of every restaurant in the nation. And by the time the passport came out, all of us were mired in government debt, and didn't know what to do and how we were going to get out of this and whether this was even going to end. It seemed like it was going to go on forever. But our place, my restaurant had sort of become a beacon for other restaurateurs during the apocalypse to come to, because I was skeptical from day one as to what was going on, and it was weird. You'd work a 10-hour shift, and then the doors would close at a really absurdly early hour, like 8 o'clock, because nobody was going out after 8 o'clock. And you're like, well, what are we gonna do, right? So we would just hang out and drink and smoke and talk about what the hell's going on. And other restaurateurs would come, and most everybody that I knew was of like mind, that this is really awful what's going on. And by the time that pass came, I was like, so let me get this straight. You want me to turn away customers and tell them that they're dirty? I need every one of my customers to survive, and now you want me to tell 25% of them that they're stinking dirty pigs that aren't allowed to come in my restaurant? And my mindset, I'm just like, well, these people are never going to come back to see me ever. And all the restaurateurs thought the same. They really did. But unfortunately, when I spoke out, I was the first one, and they came down on me fast and hard, and I was made example of, and no one dared say anything after that.
Yeah, not to harp on it too much for the listeners, but to remember that this was different than the States, right? Because we're in Alberta too, supposedly the freest,
yeah.
Canada, right in Calgary, and yeah, this was going on all across Canada. I mean, I remember I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to try and fake my way into these restaurants and all. And I was just like, I was sort of done with socializing at that point. I remember my sister couldn't get into restaurants. They were really checking in Vancouver. In Vancouver, there was a couple.
Oh my God, Sam! Vancouver was a zombie apocalypse,
right? I mean, they were just they wouldn't they were literally watching everybody come in very carefully. You had to have your papers in Vancouver. I mean, I know that there was some restaurants were sort of light about it. You could kind of weasel in without doing it. But I mean, that's how bad it was.
That was the thing too, is that a culture of snitches had developed within Canada and in our community. And, throughout the apocalypse, from March 16th to October, that was roughly 18 months, that we were alive during the apocalypse. And the cops showed up at our place a few times, during that period, because, a neighbor had ratted us out that we were stuck around after work drinking or whatever the heck we were doing, nothing. We were doing nothing. We were just being humans, trying to navigate our way through the most tumultuous times of our lives. But a lot of people ask me, why it was that I vocally said, what it was that I was doing. And there's a number of reasons, but one of them was I didn't want to get snitched out. I knew I wasn't going to be enforcing this disgusting, unscientific vaccine passport. And I didn't want to have to defend myself. I thought it better that I just be honest and straightforward as to what it was that I was going to do, that I was going to uphold the charter, and I was going to believe in the equality of all man. Yeah, yeah. It turned out to be, you know, one of the most, I don't know if it was questionable or not. A lot of people are just like, why didn't she just shut up, you know, and not check like everybody else did? And yeah, the thing was at the beginning, they gave you two options. And they said, you know what, you can check the pass and stay open, or you can not check the pass and only do takeout. Right. And so at first I was like, okay, well, we're just going to do takeout. But I watched a restaurant that I admired and went to in Calgary take that takeout option. They came out and said, you know what, we're not going to do the pass, you know, and they made up some story, right? You know, we think it's first day, but I knew like they just didn't want to do the damn pass. And they said, we're just going to stick to a takeout model. And then I watched them just get roasted online by everybody calling them anti-vaxxers and you don't support the vaccine. And why don't you love the quackscene, you know? And I was like, okay, I can't do that option either. And so, yeah, I just decided to come out and say exactly what it was that I was against.
I wonder how many of them turned out to be bots in the end. I mean, if there's one thing,
all of them were bought.
Yeah, no, well, I don't know if like Elon just turned the bots into prostitutes or what happened just to make it more noticeable. But now it's like, you know, every time I get a Twitter notification, it's from one of them hooker bots, and it's like, well, back 2-3 years ago, this was probably just a liberal bot telling me that I was crazy for X, Y, and Z. Now, the other thing I think that is worth mentioning is, I mean, there had to be a party that just hoped if you came out and said that, and just because I was all over the place. I had a fake test, so I just, you know, I had a Walmart stamp. I could whip up a test if I needed, because I went back and forth. I was like, no, I don't want to do. I'm not going out. I'm not doing it. And then it's like, well, but you know, you want to try and support the restaurants. You don't want all the restaurants to be gone when shit comes back around, because it wasn't their fault. And I've got one of my real good buddies owns a restaurant, and he was doing the just don't check thing. And he's like, dude, some of these old ladies would come in here and they'd be like, you know, they just kind of stand at the door all huffy until someone went over there, and they'd be like, aren't you going to check?
You want to be checked.
You're going to check the papers? And he's like, what are you wearing to look at your shit? I mean, fine, pull it out, I guess. But you had to assume that, you know, maybe, because what if, you know, 50 or 100 other restaurants around town said, yeah, we're not doing it either. Do you think there was a number of restaurants that could have pushed it over the top where they would have just had to?
I honestly believe that all that was needed was one more restaurant to join me. And then it would have just caught like wildfire. Nobody wanted to do it. I shouldn't say no. There was a few, you know, these restaurants that were just, they were completely brainwashed trolls. But for the most part, nobody wanted to do it. And I think if one more restaurant had joined me, you know, it would have been struck down right away. I really do think that. But, you know, I look back and I think, you know, I question to myself 1,000 times a day as to why I did that and everything like that. But I believe now that it was Providence. You know, I think, like, how does a restaurant called Without Papers Pizza get shut down for refusing to check papers? You know, how is it that my fallback now is a restaurant called POW Pizza? Like, it's just crazy, you know. And I really truly believe that I was chosen. You know, one of the things, and I don't talk about it much because it scares people, but I'm a believer of Jesus Christ, and I think he's my Lord and Savior. And a voice spoke to me when I was questioning what decisions I was going to make. And he said to me that you do it, I'll give you the strength and I'll provide you the salvation. And that's exactly what's happened. I got the strength from who knows where to survive this barrage that came down upon me. And now salvation has been granted to me with the Ingram decision and all the COVID mandates being rescinded in Alberta, or being declared ultra vires of the law, essentially meaning that they were never a law. And now it turns out that it was me, in fact, that adhered to the law of the land and God's law. And it was the government that broke the law. And yeah, I've started my civil suit, and I will receive compensation for the closure of my restaurant illegally by the Gestapo health authorities.
Have you considered like doing a book or something like that too? To just, I really feel like there's a book there, you know, even if it was I mean, that one dude made a couple $100,000 just off his little.
Nobody's reading books anymore, Derek. Come on.
Oh, dude, you'd be surprised. If you get that motherfucker onto audio, You'd be real surprised.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of agree with you because there was the one out in Moseley that put a Walmart sign in the window, and they were kind of open, but they're 2 hours away from the city. That
In Maudsley, really? Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, there's.
I didn't know about that.
There was like the Moseley food place, and they put.
I know that. I know exactly. Yeah.
Because I go by there fishing all the time, and we'd pop in, but I agree because I want to say 50, but I feel like if 5 or 10 would have just, even 3 would have been like, yeah, fuck that. Then it would have just been like, yeah, well, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. Almost
it could have been, yeah.
Almost like the trucker convoy, right? Because the trucker convoy, in a lot of ways, showed us that we weren't alone. Like right before that shit started happening was almost the darkest hour, right? Like, I mean, I think Graham and I got COVID in like late September, or no, it was October. We got COVID in October of, I guess.
How do you know you got COVID?
It was 2021.
Well, we were super sick.
It was right after his shutdown.
We tested, and we because we had to test. So here's how it happened. We were doing an event. We do an event, right? We had these event companies, and they told us we couldn't travel, so we just had to like come up with these. I'm an Indian, so they can't stop me. But Graham's not. So we just started we started a fake energy company because they said that if you worked in energy sector, you could travel. So we just made some business cards, and that was good for a while. And then, but anyway, so then it got into the testing. So, okay, if you want to leave, if you want to come back in the country, you got to do a test. And blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, you probably didn't even have to do that. But at that time, we were still kind of figuring it out. And Graham went to do it. So the first guy, I think it was day 1 of our event, or day 2, and some guy comes out, and it's kind of the same thing at our event where it's like, hey, how about you guys just don't get tested and everything will be fine? But no, this one fucking guy goes and is sick, so he goes and gets a test at the local doctor and comes back and tells everyone in our 40 attendees that he's got COVID.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I got to say, to our event's credit, we were like, well, we're just going to keep going. And our event's like hopping in these 3 vans and driving all over the countryside with Randall Carlson. And everybody was like, yeah, well, whatever, fucking roll with it. So we did it. And we have to test to get back into the country. So we go do our test at a Walgreens or whatever the fuck it was back then to get back into Canada. And Graham fails his fucking test. So, and he's like sick. Then he's like starts getting sick. So then it's like we're driving up. So we didn't want to drive into BC. So we took the extra long way around from Washington to Montana.
Right.
So we could come straight into Alberta. Yeah, right to Coots. Yeah. Which might have been a worse idea. We might have been better off going through into BC in the middle of nowhere. But we get to Coots and they're like, give us your passport. And Graham's like in the back now in the fucking, sick. Dude's sick, rolled up in the back of my truck, fucking sick in the back seat, sleeping underneath the blanket. And they're like, okay, we need your passports. And I'm like, dude's got COVID. And they're like, what do you fucking mean dude's got COVID? They're like, keep the passports. And, they're like, go pull over there and just like stop and call this number. So then we call the health authorities and they're like yelling at Graham. They're like, what are you doing? You're endangering all these people and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, lady, are you okay? How do you feel? Like, is there... Then Graham got mad because I was kind of maybe inflaming the situation. And then they're telling us we got to go to this quarantine center and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, that's not fucking happening. So unless you call the cops here. And then the border guard was kind of like, he's like, well, I'm not going to call any cops. So you're just going to like get them off the fucking phone and away you go.
And don't forget, this is the ArriveCan area. So we had to go through. And if we didn't, we'd already been in and out a little bit. And we knew that, like, you have to go into the office if you're not going to do the ArriveCan, and you got to fill a bunch. It's a battle no matter which way. We tried filling the ArriveCan out, not filling it out, testing, not testing. Like as we were going across the borders, like we had tried out, so we knew that, like as soon as the ArriveCan comes up, that we had to like tell them like no, there is no test. So. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And then they just let us go home. We're like, look, we're not going to go to the quarantine hotel. We're going straight home from here. And then I got calls on the phone every couple of days, making sure I'm quarantining, and like it was weird, very weird.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. It was crazy.
The point was, I mean, I know you asked like, did we have it? Well, I mean, I did get pretty sick, and I knew that I had it before the test. I knew that I had something. I don't know what it is, I think it's a bioweapon. I had something. And 20 something people got it. Like it was going around, whatever it was. I mean, whether you believe in the virus or
COVID,
something happened to the group. So
we all got sick and then I got sick after that. And I just remember like, so now I've had COVID and I'm after, and it's like December, and it's just like, you know, we had kind of hoped they were going to maybe start easing up on some shit. And then they start like doubling down, and fucking Christmas is canceled again, losers. And it's just like, that was just like a fucking dark hour, man. It was like, you know, what the fuck?
Because you mentioned snitches, right?
So dude, I folded, dude. I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't get vaccinated, but I had a buddy who liked drugs and needed money, and he was like, you know, let me talk to people. So I was just like, all right, man, I'll just do it, because I just wanted to get on the planes again and all that. So I did fold in that stance, but I just remember being around that, like, it was just like, man, everyone just fucking rolled over. I can't believe it. I honestly can't believe. And then the trucker convoy fucking happens, and it's like, you know, it turns out that there was all these people, you know, not everyone, but it turns out that there was a bunch of people that fucking thought just like you did, but just, you know, you were all sort of eking past each other and no one was saying anything. And I just feel like the same thing could have happened with the restaurants. You know what I mean? Like it was so close. You missed it by like 3 months.
Well, like somebody was saying in the chats there was the Adams barbecue guy in Toronto. There was the Vancouver.
Adam Skelly, yeah.
There was the lady in Vancouver and Kitsilano that had a tiny
Corduroy restaurant.
Corduroy. Like I knew you'd know off the top of your head. Like, and only if there was like a couple more of each of those in each area, because it really felt like there was only kind of one.
You know what's weird, man, is that you were talking about the bots earlier, and I thought you meant like did the restaurants get bought off, you know, with these loans, which they did. But I know what you mean now by the bots that came down with you with the hate. But a lot of the bots were paid social media influencers. I'll give you one example. In Calgary, there's a social media influencer under the name of Dinner with Julie, Julie Van Rosendahl. She was a close friend of mine for 20 years. She raised my hand on television when we first opened Without Papers and said, you know, we're the best pizza in town. And she lived down the street from us. She was a friend. We supported her whenever we could. And she came down on me really, really hard, you know, and she came down on me on Twitter, you know, and I wasn't on Twitter at that time. And I reached out to her and I'm just like, you know, what are you doing, Julie? You know, like, well, how are you supporting this? You know, what's going on? You know, and then she wrote back, you know, oh my God, grandma, and all this sort of stuff. And then I think back on it now, I'm just like, you were paid, weren't you? You were paid by the government to attack any restaurant that dared speak out against this and to push this whole narrative, you know, and that's exactly what it was. You know, I mean, everyday citizens turned into you know, government agents. It was terrible, man.
Yeah,
terrible.
We were thinking that, and we were thinking that the neighbors were just about to start snitching. Like it seemed like it was happening. That, you know, that was right after Christmas, January, February, and then finally sort of it opened up, and that did sort of shift everything.
Yeah, I know, man. Christmas time, you know, people phoning on their neighbors because they had 7 people over for dinner instead of 6. It was lunacy, you know, when you realize just exactly what the terror campaign that was initiated upon society, you know, the greatest, largest psyop that's ever occurred in human history. And, you know, I understand why people caved. I mean, it was literally everywhere. You know, you're going to die, grandma's going to die, and, you know, greater good. I mean, all this stuff. And people just had to, you know, and they just took things away from you until you complied, until you finally just broke, you know. And for me, I mean, I didn't want to get vaccinated because I never believed a word of it, you know. And I was like, I don't need to get vaccinated against tyranny. I'm already immune to this bullshit. You know, but I honestly, I wasn't anti-vax at the beginning. I really wasn't. You know, most of the people I knew had taken it, and I guess in a way I judged them, but not really. You know, I didn't think that they were going to die from it or grow an extra head or, you know, get myocarditis or Bell's palsy or any of these things. You know, I was just like, man, I don't want to take this shit, you know? Yeah, it was shocking. Like Darren said, I still can't believe how many people complied, you know. And when you talked, I meet so many people every day now, you know, people come to my restaurant because of what I've done and, you know, to come meet me or whatever. And a lot of them are vaccinated, you know, and most of the people I talk to that are vaccinated, you know, express remorse and regret with their decision. I think I think most of them wish that they had the fortitude to have held on like the unvaccinated did. And of course, there are still some of them that believe the vaccine saved their life, but I don't think there's very many of those left anymore.
No. So what's
you just gotta keep getting them, like you just gotta keep getting them like every 2 months, and then
yeah. It blows my mind, man.
What's going on with the courts then now? So you've won some already, and then are you still fundraising for more, or what's happening with that?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm a professional grifter now. All my charges were dropped. I went to a court on November 15th. And by that time, the Ingram decision had come out, and they had no authority whatsoever to charge me of anything. They literally dropped all my charges, so they closed my restaurant unadjudicated. I never went to a court of law, deemed me guilty, and I'm innocent. And what they did was illegal. So I've started a civil suit. Leighton Gray is my lawyer. Leighton Gray was the man who cross-examined Dina Hinshaw and got her to admit that she was nothing more than a puppet to the Jason Kenney regime, and that all the health decisions were in fact political science and nothing to do with health. We're suing the city of Calgary, Alberta Health Services, and the province of Alberta, and I'm going to win. And I hope that my case sets precedents and Albertans will never be medically segregated again. I wanted to talk a little bit about that decision because, again, the PSYOP does continue still, and the censorship is still intense or willing in nature in Canada. But last year, on July 31st, a friend of mine got the monumental landmark decision, the Ingram decision. Her name is Rebecca Ingram, and she owned a gym in Calgary called The Gym. And she was one of the first defiers. And she said, no, my business is essential, just as essential as the Walmart down the street and the Rona. And I demand to be able to stay open and to make a living. And so she took Dina Hinshaw and AHS to court. And a lot of people were placing a lot of hope on her trial, because they came forth with charter violations or constitutional challenges, essentially. And the hope was that, that her case was going to set precedents in that regard. It unfortunately didn't, because the courts are so corrupted in Canada. But the outcome was still monumental. And so what happened was as I mentioned, Dina Hinshaw, who was the chief medical officer of health, a position that was created just a few months before this scamdemic, coincidentally enough, an unelected bureaucrat was essentially given the power of Caesar, and she could do anything within her power. It was literally written into the Public Health Act by any means necessary. She could have literally just shot unvaccinated people on the street, and all she would have had to have said was that it was for the greater good, and would have been authorized. They had given themselves blanket immunity from any civil litigation with the section 66.1 that they've written into it, that any damages by their decision caused upon person or business, they were completely immune to. So I had zero chance of suing these bastards for what they did, even though, I think a lot of people think that it was tyrannical overreach and unnecessary, but I had zero chance of seeking retribution. Well, in that decision, it was revealed that Dina Hinshaw was essentially just a cocktail waitress. And what she would do is that she would come to Jason Kenney and cabinet and provide him a list of all the different remedies that they could possibly, choose to alleviate the so-called health concerns and satiate the public's interest for safety. And he was just picking them off based on polling. That was basically it. And that made every single mandate in Alberta that was issued by her, which was all of them, unlawful. All of them. Every single one of them, including the disgusting, immoral, unscientific vaccine passport that was used to shut down my restaurant. It's the only place in the world that this has happened. Alberta. That's it. Where all this nonsense was declared unlawful. And I look back on it now and I think, how the hell did that happen. And I had mentioned salvation, and I truly believe that I was provided with salvation with that decision. And I went from having a 0% chance of succeeding in a court of law to essentially a 100% chance. I don't even think my civil suit is going to see a court of law. I think they're going to settle with me out of court. And again, that's going to be another tactic for them to avoid me setting precedents.
Yeah.
They dropped my charges in November because they knew that if I went to court, I would have been found innocent and precedents would have been set. So another tactic they're going to have to avoid me setting precedents is try to offer me a plea deal. And my decision that I'm going to be making at that time is, not a plea deal, sorry, a deal. Do I take the deal or not? They had offered me countless plea deals, just plead guilty to this, just plead guilty to this. And I told them to stuff it every single time. I never, ever, ever gave up hope, man. I never gave up hope. Even when I had none, I still believed. And I've learned that, you know what? The power of the human spirit is indomitable. And if there's a mountain in front of you, that mountain shall move. You have the ability to change the world, one person. All you need is the righteous will of God to be behind you, and you can move mountains, man.
Wow. So I want to try and understand that, sort of get you to explain it in a different way. But I mean, but what I was thinking of there is the power of the government funded media, right? I mean, that's why the political, it's so weird that they follow the political winds, yet the political winds are decided by the propaganda that's put out there. So it's just it's a circle jerk. But so let me get this straight. So it was good. It was good for in one way because it showed that he was just checking off from this list that Dina had, depending on the political win. So what was the bad part about it? What would have been the ideal situation?
So it would have been the ideal situation would have been that the judge finds that these were in fact charter violations, and this was an egregious crime committed against the citizens of Alberta. But unfortunately, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is essentially the charter of it has no validity whatsoever. Section 1 in that charter is, these are all your rights, bro, unless we decide it's too dangerous for you to have any rights, then we're just going to take them all away from you, and you have no recourse. And that's essentially what the loss was, is that I think a lot of people were hoping that, this would result in some amendments being made to the charter, and specifically that Section 1 be removed from the charter, so that we're always entitled to our God-given rights, and not at the whim of the state based on whether they decide we're in danger or not. So in essence, it wasn't really a great win for the freedom movement because it means that they can pull this bullshit again. All right, but it was a huge monumental win for me, and also for other businesses that were affected by these unlawful mandates. And so I encourage a lot of people that there's huge class actions that are taking place in Alberta now. One of them is with Jeffrey Rath and Co. that you can look up. I encourage anybody who was affected by these illegal mandates to participate in these class actions. And I think the consensus is that they're going to win, and the payouts on these class actions are going to be in the billions. There's already thousands of people that have joined them, and in my opinion, every single person in Alberta should be able to join them. But it's specifically Alberta that this has happened because one of the ways that they control the narrative is all these different levels, right? The provincial, the municipal, the blah, 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 blah. And each province has their own minister of health, and so it was specific to Alberta, unfortunately. And I believe that it won't happen anywhere else in Canada either. All of these corrupt criminal ministers of health, Bonnie Henry, Adrian, and all the rest of them, they've all been explicitly told now. It's like, listen, baby, when we get you up on the stage there, you make sure you tell them it was your decision and not the premier's, all right? Because we gave you the authority, not him. And so. It truly was a miracle for me specifically, and other people who were harmed by it. Like Rebecca Ingram, for example, who's the lead plaintiff in that class action. People like Chris Scott from the Whistle Stop, and a few others as well.
Is the Whistle Stop here in town?
Oh, it's up.
The Whistle Stop's in Mirror, Alberta, just to maybe 2 hours northeast of Alberta, I believe.
Or of Calgary, yeah.
Or of Calgary, I mean, sorry.
That's right. I remember looking to see if I could go to that one, and it was just like, oh man, that's a long drive for lunch.
It is. He's still open, thankfully. And that's a lot of people, ask me, oh, why didn't you join the class action? I didn't join the class action because what happened to me was very unique. all these other restaurants, they're still in business. Nobody got shut down. And so they literally took, they shut a man's business down of 20 years because I accept it all. It's never happened in the history of Canada, as far as I understand.
Maybe it needed for you to go forward and do this. Then
it is. Again, I hope that my case sets precedence. I really do, and I think it has a chance of doing that. Yeah, I'm going to win, man. I'm going to win. It blows my mind when I say that. If I told you that a year ago, I mean, most people would have just scoffed at me like, "Oh, Jesse, like, wake up. You got no chance, the government." But like, yeah, I'm going to win. They're going to pay, and they're going to be held accountable for their crimes. It is unfortunate, though, that it won't be the politicians that are held accountable for their crimes. It'll be you and all the other taxpayers within Alberta and Canada that will be paying for their crimes.
Yeah, Leighton Gray's got a couple class actions going too. I'll link.
He does, yeah.
I'll link to all those class actions in the show notes.
It's funny. I reached out to Leighton Gray very early, like after my destruction, and I'd been referred to him. And I reached out and blah blah blah. Leighton, can you help me? And he wrote me back. The kind man that he was, and said that, Jesse, I completely sympathize with you. I agree with the stance that you take, but you've got no chance whatsoever, and I can't represent you. My heart sunk a little bit, but I kept the faith. And lo and behold, 2 years later, this decision comes out, and I reach out to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I was waiting for you to call. I'll represent you, no problem." I told him, I was like, "Leighton, I'm flat broke. I got nothing. I literally lost everything." And he's like, "Yeah, no problem. I represent you." Yeah, he's very confident.
For people who want more about Leighton, we did have him on the show, on our other show last week on
did you?
Outlawed. Yeah, we were talking about those class actions. I mean, I'm going to sign up for it, because I mean, here's the thing, if not a lot of people do it, I mean, we make quick 50.
It's funny, and how people don't want to join in. Still, like, the fear lingers in people's minds. And I when you look back and you talk to people now, and you're just like, man, PTSD. Like, everybody just wants to move on from it. Nobody wants to remember what the hell they did. And to me, it's like, you can never forget, man. You can never forget. Like that. What they did was that vaccine passport was the most heinous crime that's ever been enforced in the nation. And people are like, "Oh, what are you talking about? The Kamloops burials and all this sort of stuff. And what about the people that they interned, and the Japanese in World War II?" And I'm like, yeah, no, none of those hold a candle to this. This literally discriminated, segregated 10 million healthy Canadians, based on nothing but political science. It was really truly an immoral crime, not only in the eyes of the of our supposed rights, but in the eyes of God itself. I mean, there is no more despicable crime than to call somebody healthy and say that they're diseased. You can make all sorts of similarities to the Jews in World War II and so on.
Yeah, it was really divisive. I mean, and even if they got it, even if they had the science right, it would have still been totally wrong. But I mean, it's doubly wrong because it was all based on bullshit. But I don't even want to go. I mean, it's changed me, right? I mean, it's changed everybody, not just the people now that were scared of COVID, but now it's changed people like me that I don't want to be social as much as I did anymore. I don't even want to go out as much. I mean, I know those are my own issues, but like, it's just.
I think that the one positive thing of all this bullshit was how many people it awakened, including myself. I was a lefty libtard before all this shit. I believed in climate change, and I believed in all the bullshit, and it wasn't until that COVID scam came out that I awakened. And I truly believe that there is a great awakening happening right now. And there is many millions of people all around the world that are realizing that literally every single thing you've been taught, everything is a lie. A flat out lie. We can just go deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole, but man, we're just free range humans on a giant tax farm, man. That's all it is to it.
Have you always?
It's interesting to watch all the newbies, because Grav and I have been doing this for, we're almost 11 or 12 years now.
Yeah.
And, dude, we were doing our first shows in 2013. We had this Karen Hudez brought on, and she's like telling us about these pedophile politicians, and even then we're like,
yeah, I know. You're like, what are you talking about, baby? And now you're like, yeah, there you go. Yeah, pedo Joe.
now we're just like, wow, she was so ahead of her time.
You know what's weird, man? You think about COVID and stuff, and you know, the greatest deception is, you know, and everyone was like, well, how would they hide that? It's like literally just in plain sight. Literally just in plain sight, right in front of your eyes is where they hide it. And that's the easiest way, you know. And yeah, all the lies that we've been told. And literally all you got to do is just like wake up, touch the earth, ground yourself, and realize that, you know what? God exists. We are exact, perfect beings. You are not a speck of dust in an infinite universe. That you are the reason that the whole universe exists was because of you, and you are the power, and you are the glory. And yeah, you're special, and always believe it. You have great, tremendous ability, and yeah. Believe in yourself, man.
Have you always been a follower of Jesus too? Or?
No, not really. You know, I mean, yeah, I'd like to say that it was only in darkness that I saw the light. And I was brought up Catholic, you know, and I'd like to make a stipulation that, yeah, although I believe that Jesus controls my life, I'm not so enamored by the Catholic Church. You know, I still remember in the beginning, I was like, what the, like, how the hell is the church supporting all this bullshit? You know what I mean? Like, what happened to the lepers? You know what I mean? Like, what are you guys doing now? Like, it was crazy. You know, it was crazy. There was still like some priests that silently. There was the church in Inglewood actually, and the first Easter, because the lockdowns happened just before Easter in 2020, and I went to mass, and I went to mass. You know, everybody's like, "Oh, you can't go to mass; you're gonna die." You know, it's like, no, I'm gonna go to mass, and I was so pleasantly surprised, you know, that this priest was speaking out against the bullshit. But I talked to him privately afterwards, you know, and I was like, "What's up, bro? Like, you know, you're telling me what I believe and what the word of Jesus is." I go, but your boss is saying the exact opposite, you know, like what's going on? And you know, you realize that yeah, the Catholic Church is just another pedophile ring of fucking lizard overlords, you know.
So then, what was, as you're tumbling down the rabbit hole, was there any like stops that were especially egregious?
If in terms of my awakening, or
Yeah,
what do you want me to tell me what I believe now, like what I think?
I probably got a pretty good idea what you believe, but I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
was there any that were just like, what was the most shocking one?
So after I got shut down, you know, my restaurant here in Windermere now is just an outdoor deck attached to a food truck, and I spent a lot of time just looking up at the stars, you know, like every night, just kind of looking, you know, like what am I like, just, and I just started to realize like what's going on up there, you know, and I was like, what they telling me they landed somebody out there, you know, I'm like, I don't fucking think so, man, you know, and then that got started to it, and now we can go, you know, really deep down the hole, but we'll start with the fact that, yeah, I don't think that they landed anybody on the moon, and the only thing they've launched into space is your imagination.
Dude, they definitely did not land on the moon.
No, man, no.
I don't think they did. I mean, the crazy thing to me is they just like, you know,
you know what? You start to realize it's like, why would they fucking lie about that, right? Like, why? And then I realized one day, I was like, oh, science. Their new god is science, you know, because science proved it, you know, with their reverse engineering and this and that and that and that. And that's what they wanted to enact with people. And they started this bullshit 50, 60, 70 years ago, you know, it was like, oh no, science, bro, science. No God, it's science. And the moon landing was the fucking perfect example of that. It's like, no, bro, God didn't get you to the moon. Science did. Science landed us up there, you know? And that was the start of our fall into this fucking deep, dark hole of communism, you know, which I think is a tenet of yeah, a tenet of communism is the science, you know, and it's like, because science is below the state, science is the state, whereas, you know, God is above the state.
Yeah, it's very materialistic communism. It just fits in perfect with.
I never realized, you know, how easy it was, you know, and everybody's like, "Oh, Canada's not communist." I'm like, "Oh, shut up, man." And it's like, how, you know, how would they enact it here? And it's like, yeah, just like what they did, They literally bought everybody off. They printed fucking money and bought everybody, and that's it. everybody became communist overnight. People quit their jobs. I still remember a kid that worked for me, man. This guy, I used to do his checks, I'd be writing checks every 2 weeks, like getting carpal tunnel on checks for these 50 employees I had. And, I get this one kid and he worked like 6 hours every 2 weeks, right? Like a 3-hour shift on Saturdays. And he was the first one to quit, like the first one to quit. And I was like, what the hell, bro? Why you quitting? Don't you? I'm just like, oh no, like, why come to work for me, man? You actually got to do shit. You just stay home and get fucking paid $1,000 from the government. Like, and there you go, man. The kid's a commie, like that's it.
So how do you like Windermere then? Because we do an event out there I think it's close by in Invermere.
That's literally just like down the same town essentially.
Up the mountain there, and we do like a whole bunch of cold plunges, and we have like a Wim Hof instructor there. We rent a huge cabin, probably 20 or 30 people there for the weekend. We should get some of your pizzas up there.
100%, man. I'd love to do that for you. I love it here, man. I love it. And it wasn't until I escaped the city that I realized, what low vibration control centers that essentially they are, man. And when you look at the compliance that existed within Canada, the cities, we talked about Vancouver earlier. I drove through shortly before I made my announcement, and I'd always loved Vancouver, and then all of a sudden I drove through and it was like literally like zombies walking down the street everywhere underneath the radiating sun, like worried about death. And you realize that it's in the cities that the people are the most easy to control. And so one of the things I love about being out here is that although there still are a great many people who are willfully asleep or woefully asleep, there is a much larger freedom movement out here that as a percentage that exists within Calgary and all the other cities. So yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world, man. It really is. It's a lovely energy, a lovely vibration, and it's weird. It's when we talked about looking up at the stars, and I sometimes go really deep, and I'm just like, what's up with these cities? Like, you can't see the stars, all this, and I'm just like, oh, maybe that's why, maybe that's why they don't want you, they literally cloud out the skies in the cities, and you can't see. And once you get out here and like, you return to sweet Mother Nature, and you touch a tree and you look up at a star and you look up at the moon and you feel the sun beating down upon you. It's a beautiful experience.
Yeah, sometimes it almost seems like it was just some evolutionary thing that had to happen. It just had, because the big thing, those two big things that have happened from COVID, as near as I can tell, is a giant return to spirituality and a giant fucking exodus from the cities, which both of those things, arguably are good, or they are good. They are good. Whether it was worth all the shit we went through, probably not. But I think there's going to be a time in the near future where everyone in those cities is going to fucking starve to death. So,
I do too, man. Yeah.
I think we'll be pretty glad at that time. I was like, oh, fuck, am I glad I'm not there? It'd be like this weird thing where we were watching fucking Soviets starve to death back in the 70s. And everyone's like, oh, man, look at this shit. This is crazy. But we'll be watching that on our fucking phones, and it'll be people fucking 8 hours up the road, you know what I mean? And they're not going to be allowed out because the QR code machine's broke and now the walls won't open up or whatever the fuck has to happen, but it just seems to be headed in a pretty dark direction. So if I don't know if you heard, but we were talking to Leighton last week and he mentioned that Alberta's supposedly coming out with a Bill of Rights this fall that's going to include some things on bodily autonomy and things like that, and hopefully not have that pesky Section 1 thing.
I hope so, man. I really hope so. There is a skeptical side to me that still exists. And I believe our overlords, will be fighting tooth and nail against granting us any freedoms of any kind. But I hope something like that happens. It was really pretty shocking to find out, what people would succumb to in order just to participate in society, and if there was 30 million Canadians that were jabbed, I'm going to guess that 15 million of them didn't want it, and you literally got raped by the government. I mean, they penetrated your body, without you wanting to. And I hope something happens, man. I really hope. And I hope, there's days that I get down and I think like, oh man, like all is lost, but I realize that every day somebody wakes up, and somebody sees the truth. And once you see the light, you never go back to the darkness. And a movement is growing, and hopefully one day, we'll become the majority, and we'll be able to live as the free sovereign beings that we are.
So you're on X. Are you're following some of the Canadian stuff that's going on, and is there anything else you're sort of following and with this whole movement, or weren't you kicked off of X at one point? Or
I've been kicked off 4 times now. Yeah, my original account had 45,000 followers, and I got kicked off, and I think I got kicked off the second time at 12,000. And I'm on X now, but to be honest with you, I'm just dropping memes now. I'm just gone a little bit tired of telling people to wake up, and so I kind of just lurk in the shadows, and I do like maybe 2 or 3 posts a week, nothing major, but yeah, I'm still on there. What Pizza 4, and yeah, what movements do I follow? I mean, the Coots blockade, the Coots 3, unfortunately, found guilty. Great men. I knew 2 of them personally. I find that to be a travesty. The Coots 4, I was very involved with. I was at the Coots border blockade for essentially the entire time, and I think that was possibly the greatest civil rights movement in the history of Canada. I think it was more important than the Ottawa protests as well. The Coots border blockade started organically, was peaceful all throughout, ended peacefully, and resulted in in its catalyst, the vaccine passport, being rescinded in Alberta. It's testimony to the fact that the people are the power, and a lot of people will tell you that protest it doesn't do anything, but I disagree. I think going to City Hall doesn't do anything, but I think from time to time civil disobedience is necessary, and examples like Coots give me a lot of hope. I was really disappointed when I heard Daniel Smith talk about the decision with the Coots 3 and their guilty verdict, and she had said that it was ideology, and under no ideology are you allowed to block critical infrastructure and everything like that, and there's avenues that are available for your voice to be heard, and I was just like, you miserable woman. Like there was no avenues, and you literally look at what happened at Coots. There was grandmas and grandpas that converged on the border and decided that this was their only hope to become a free and equal member of society again. I can't go to City Hall, nobody's listening to me. I can't post anything, and it was yeah, it was a necessary evil. I really believe it, and one of the proudest moments of my life, and incredibly fortunate to be a part of it.
Man, the Mohawks got to do it and shoot a guy, and they, no one went to jail there. If you guys,
that was the strange thing about the Mohawk, the Indians. Like, I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, how are these guys like getting these smallpox blankets from the government again? I'm like, I was a bit disappointed in the native population drinking that government Kool-Aid, man. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't.
Well,
I was like, man, for sure these guys are gonna rise up.
It's just tied to all the money. It's just
exactly it, man, isn't it? Yeah, all the chiefs got paid off, and that was that.
And you got to fucking say what you're saying.
Yeah.
Me and my chief don't really get along, so I don't know. He doesn't really talk to me, so maybe we do get along, and he just has a funny way of showing it. So, do you expect to settle then, or you plan to go the distance, or do you have a number in mind?
I don't know, man. Like the funny thing is that I've fought a tremendous, long, hard battle, and as I mentioned, I do believe that what happened was a miracle, and there's a part of me that says like, no, let's take it to court, but I have a business partner, my yin to my yang, and I love him dearly, and we were partners for 20 years. In that 20 years, we worked 30 years, and unfortunately, what happened to us affected him very dearly as well, and it didn't need to. We could have stayed silent like everybody else did, and it was my decision to speak out, and my decision has caused him to lose everything that we worked so hard to gain. I've come to fully accept, what was taken from me. I'm at peace with it, but I'll never accept what he lost, and I consider it my responsibility. And so if I am offered a deal, I'll confer with him as to what his choice is, and in that situation, I will respect his decision 100%.
At this point, you can take the W. Yeah, I really think that is the W. That's it.
It's a win, man. It's a win. And that was like my charges being dropped. I think, it gave a lot of people hope. That man, like, here we go. This guy stood up, and they tore him down, and he won, and he's gonna win. And it gives people hope for the future. And so, it's funny, how life, the path that gets steered on in life. And I always tell people, I dare you to go all in on yourself, man. You'll be surprised. Like, just do it. Just do it. Follow your gut. And I think that your gut is a connection to God himself.
Jesse, this has been great. Do you have a place where people can go and support the legal costs or anything?
I have my Give Send Go set up at Without Papers Pizza. Yeah, you can contribute there, and I've made a promise on that Give Send Go as well. I'm certain that I'm going to win. I know I'm going to win, and anybody that donates to me on the Give Send Go, I will repay that donation in kind and with love as interest as well.
That's a great idea.
I'm going to win. I'm absolutely going to win. So donate to me. I think that a donation to me is better than an investment in the stock market. I have 100% a return on my investment.
So when do you plan on, when is it going to happen, do you think?
Right away.
Okay.
Yeah, it's already started.
No, I mean, when do you think you'll file?
It's been filed already. Yeah, I've not gone public with it, so I might as well do it here now. But it has been filed already. It's just a waiting game now. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know what the statute of limitations is with these bastards, but it could be 2 years. I mean, who knows what it is? But yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's where we got to hit them. That's the only place they seem to care. I mean, it would be better if you could go after fucking Kenny personally, that piece of shit. But
you know what? The bastard, he was a customer of mine, man. He lived down the road from me in Inglewood. And word is that he literally he lives almost directly behind my restaurant, which is still empty, by the way. 3 years later, my restaurant is still empty. I was one of the busiest places in town, and I say it's a testament to tyranny. Nobody will move into that place. It's a jinx. It's got a curse upon it. And the only person that is rightful heir to that space is me.
They killed Inglewood, man. Inglewood sucks now. There's just, I don't know what it is, but all of the street buzz that used to be there is just gone.
Man, I love that neighborhood. I raised my children in that neighborhood. I helped raise many children in that neighborhood. Half the children in that neighborhood worked for me. I was a much valued, respected member of that community, and it broke my heart. It really broke my heart. What happened, and how nobody essentially, spoke out for me, or I had expected somebody to just be like, no, man, these guys are good guys, like, man, they've been here for like 20 years, like, remember they gave them the flood and they gave away those pin, like, all, but yeah. And I forgive them all. I realized like the fear was omnipresent, and nobody wanted to defend me, because if they did, they would have been destroyed as well.
That's how they get you, the sons of bitches. Well, hopefully, if nothing else, we won't let them do it again over some avian bird flu bullshit, which seems to be,
yeah, man, it's coming down the pipe,
percolating in the background. Yeah. Well, Jesse, like I said, this has been great. We will be in town in November, but
make sure you reach out to me, Pow Pizza in Windermere. All right. And I'm making Detroit style pizza out here. It's my first time in the kitchen in my 20-year career, and I'm kicking ass. I love it. And the love is tasted within every one of my delicious deep dish Detroit style pizzas. Please come and visit me.
Awesome. Right on.
We'll definitely come and see you when we're in town for sure. We will come and get a bunch of pizzas from you.
I hope so, bro.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, Jesse.
God bless you guys all, man, and God bless freedom, and God bless Canada.
Thanks.
And God bless the United States of America, too, where all my brothers are. MAGA 2024.
All right, Jesse. Have a good one.
Ciao, bro.
And that was our chat. Jesse Johnson, Without Papers Pizza. I guess POW Pizza now. Pow Pizza. You know, that place was probably there last November. We probably drove by it.
Yeah, I think we talked about it when we were in there. Yeah.
So we could do that. Then I don't have to cook steaks one night.
Yeah.
It's a night
That's a
off.
great idea. Yeah, we'll have to
Yeah.
go down and pick it up. Or he can come and hang out. He can deliver it and come and hang out.
We'll make him come up the mountain. It's a hell of a hike up the mountain. So anyway, big thanks, Jesse, for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Big thanks to the live numbers. Hey, even bigger thanks if you're one of the few people who do choose to support our work. Of course, this show is value for value, which means I know it seems free. It seems free because all the episodes are there and they're just free and you don't have to pay for them. But if you're getting some value from this, because we don't have any ads, we don't got shit. So if you're getting some value from the show, you head over gramerica.ca/support and decide what the show is worth to you. Is it worth nothing? Then, email Graham and tell him why. Graham@gramerica.com. Is it worth $1 a month, $2 a month? Maybe it's worth $10 one time, and all 600 episodes, that's all you get. That's fine. That's fine. Most people don't give anything. So if you head over to gramerica.ca/support today and decide what kind of value you're getting from our show, because we need more support. And if you support us, we'll read out your note. We'll tell people about how great you are. So gramerica.ca/support. Sign up today, make a monthly or one-time donation. Of course, if you guys like audiobooks, head over to adultbrain.ca and check that out. You can get the books on, I think Spotify Canada now has started doing the same thing that Spotify UK and Spotify America do. So if you have a Spotify premium subscription, you could probably get all our audiobooks for free. And we still pay
a certain amount of them. I don't think it's just unlimited, but
so many per month. I don't know how it works. I don't know how it works because we don't, I don't have it. But check it out if you got Spotify. That's one way to do it. Of course, there's the podcast, there's a YouTube channel, Audible, all those other places. But if you have Spotify already, you could support us without it costing you any money by just listening to those audiobooks. Hey, maybe just put it on when you go to sleep. You don't even actually listen to it. You just put it on when you're sleeping. We get paid. So a couple bucks. So there, your supporters support the show, but you have Spotify Premium. Just each month, play a couple of those books while you're sleeping. And, that's the equivalent of giving us $3 a month. So, just saying. GramericaOutlaw.ca for all that other content. Usually that's where we do this type of show. But felt like this one felt better in the Gramerica space. But we do all sorts of, we still do in the plus extensions over there, all the the death jab fucking roundup numbers and all that stuff that is honestly getting old and kind of depressing, but it still seems important for the record to keep doing it. But we also do all the crazy roundup stuff over there, which is great. I mean, it's a small part of it.
A lot of Canadian stuff.
A lot of Canadian stuff. So we're slowly we're documenting the slow collapse of the Canadian Empire. We kind of argue back and forth on whether or not it's engineered, but either way, she's coming down in a heap. Seems like Alberta might be okay though. So it might be okay to be kind of like from where you are, right from where the start of the plains are to the far side of the mountains. Even I feel like Vancouver just seems like China anyway.
It's kind of like where Jesse is, like through that.
All that'll be part of Alberta one day. Yeah. Oh, that'll be part of Alberta one day, at least to even maybe further, maybe even to Kamloops and shit. Kamloops don't seem like it fits in with that Chinese fucking, China. Well, it's like, what's the one? Hong Kong. That's what Vancouver reminds me of, just being like Hong Kong. Yeah, I could just see it becoming this weird Chinese city state eventually, and the rest of it, everything else sort of coming right into Alberta with open arms. Anyway, gramerica.ca/support, gramericaoutlaw.ca, adultbrain.ca, contact at the cabin for the trips. If you want to come on a trip with us, we go all sorts of cool places and do all sorts of cool things. Check it out. Other than that, we love you guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.